What's going on, guys? Welcome to Looking Ahead to Beto Days. I am Chris.
And I'm Ryan.
How's it going, man? We
It's
both
pretty
had
good.
quite a busy week.
It has been a very busy week, and thunderstorms coming through here, and all kinds of bad weather. Crazy times.
Yeah, and it flooded in Houston again. So the
Had a
Astros
tornado in
beat.
Dallas.
Yep, no big ass tornado in Dallas. I luckily I think everybody that we knew has been safe, but I don't know what the fallout from that has been.
Yeah, I haven't heard much, but yeah, it's always never a good time when a tornado sets down in a major city. And,
Absolutely not.
and the Astros are in the World Series.
Yes, they fucking are. That's where I was getting at with it flooding in Houston. So real fast, Marcel called it straight up. The Astros took the Yankees in 6, but you know what? The Nationals handed Garrett Cole his first loss since May. So suck that. That's the best. That's the best thing I got going
That's
for
okay.
me. Go Nats.
I repeat every time I don't really watch baseball, but I do watch football. I'm an Eagles fan, and we don't need to talk about the Eagles right now. So moving on. We
So,
we this last week we went to the debate, or I'm sorry, not the debate, the rally against fear. And while I was there, I was able to get some why Betos from some supporters. So let's listen to that now.
Well, I was actually because I'm going to tie in I went to the WAPO event, and we have
Oh yeah, you got one on there too. Yeah.
Yep, I have a Y Beto as well. We're going to tie them both in.
Okay.
Like I said, we both traveled, so let's go ahead and play them now.
Oh man, I don't really have anything.
I don't really like Beto.
I don't really have anything off the top of my head right now.
Okay,
I
so
mean,
first off, tell me what's your name and where you're from.
It's easy.
all right. Okay, so my name is Kelvin Callahan, and I'm from Evergreen, Colorado.
So where did you first how did you first meet Beto?
So probably was introduced to Beto via the viral video of him talking about NFL players kneeling. And so that was the first introduction to Beto. And I felt like there's a guy that just he summed up kind of what I felt about the protest of and free speech as part of a protest. And it was the unpopular thing to say, and I really dug that because it wasn't a smart move politically to say something like that, but he did it anyway. And he's a guy that he speaks his mind. He says, how he feels on things, and he doesn't back down, from that. So that's why I like Beto O'Rourke.
That's a good reason. So thank you.
Awesome. Yeah, sure.
That's perfect. Perfect. Thank you. Can I interrupt for a second and get you to tell me why you like Beto so much? Oh, hold on. First off, let me start with what's your name and where you're from.
My name is Renee Stanley. Where I'm from is a loaded question.
All over.
All over. 3 places in 2 states, Texas and Colorado. And I like Beto because I agree with his stand on the issues. I find him inspiring. He has inspired me like no one since Robert Kennedy. And I have to say that he inspires me so much that after I cast my vote for him last year for the Senate race, I literally got in my car and wept because for the first time I felt 100% confident of my vote and who I voted for.
That's great. That's powerful. So, thank you. Give me your name and why do you like Beto?
Hi, my name's Diana Duron. I'm from El Paso. Same hometown that Beto comes from. Why do I support Beto? Beto and I go back a long ways. We are both Hillary supporters, and The time that I recall Beto, we were doing the last day of phone banking to get the last voters to come out and vote. And he was already our congressman, and I remember voting for him. And Beto, when he decided to run for congressman, he had very little hope and very little chance to make it because of the fact that Silvestre Reyes was very well known, and he had many years already as congressman. Beto decided to run as congressman, and nobody thought he had a chance. Even Obama had endorsed Silvestre. But Beto did what he normally does. He did grassroots. He did his grassroots movements. He did door to door, and he got a congressman. And during those years that he became, that he was a congressman, I remember watching him as he was really, really fighting for the veterans, and he even was a catalyst in getting the mental health hospital created in El Paso. And he was always fighting for immigrants. I remember he would do. He was a catalyst for doing hugs, not walls, and that was very, very popular in El Paso because we live right next to the border of Juarez, and so those 3 minutes were very important to those Mexicans and those that lived in El Paso to just unite within just those 3 minutes, just to give each other a hug. And he's always fought for dreamers. So throughout that campaign of congressman, I have followed him. And then he decided to run for Senate, and I jumped right on, and I have been a strong volunteer for him. I did just about everything. Then we thought he had a chance. We really did. We thought he was going to make it in the Senate as he was doing all the 254 counties. And I was just door to door and donating and phone banking and doing everything that we could. And I lived in that field office. And in November, when he didn't make it, and he said to us something like in the words like I'll see you soon or something like that, we all looked at each other like, he's coming back. So we waited and waited and waited. December happened, January happened, and then we had the counter rally in February, that famous counter rally in El Paso against Trump. And we had about 20,000 people, and he called us within about 3 days before that, and he said, let's make it happen, and we did. We made it happen. People flew in from all over the place, and people were coming in from New Mexico, California, Oklahoma. I remember that. And it was so cold. That night was so cold, blistering cold, and I wouldn't have missed it for anything. Trump was only 1 block away from us, and we could see them. And as we were marching into the field, the baseball field, we saw all these red hatters, and they were booing us, and they were doing whatever, and we kept on marching, and Beto kept saying, let's march, and he had all the troop just marching to the field, and that was probably the best rally I was involved in. And then right after that came the launch rally in March 30th when he did his presidential launch rally. And I was involved in that, and then from then on, I've been involved, and now I jumped in as an envoy, and I continue fighting for Beto. I do everything. I've done marching, the protests at the Tornillo camps, the immigration camps, you name it. I have done it. I was a first responder for August 3rd, a critical incident responder. That still hurts, especially when the Reverend talked today.
Yeah, he was really powerful about it.
And he was extremely powerful, and that brought just flashbacks to me of some of the things that I heard on August 3rd. So everything that Beto talks about in El Paso, he's passionate about immigrants. He's passionate about what happened in the tragedy on August 3rd. That is true because we lived it, and we live it, and we live in El Paso, and we know what's at home, and we know what we are made of. We know that we're mending, we're recovering. We are El Paso strong, and we're coming back, and we support Beto, and he's one of our own. He's one of us, one of our family, and I'll continue fighting for him.
Yeah, we're going to keep fighting.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, tell me, why do you like Beto? What's your name and why do you like Beto?
Okay, so I'm Cecilia Manalga, and I am from the San Francisco Bay Area, California. And I first saw Beto. Certainly, I wasn't voting for him in the Senate, although I supported him. But he first came to my attention when he did he answered the question about kneeling with Kaepernick. And it was sort of perked my interest, and it went from there. And I like what I heard, and I think what resonates with me is that he is for all Americans, and that he's not looking into whether you voted for him or whether you're Democrat or Republican or independent. He really is for all Americans, and he really believes that too, which is really remarkable and something that we need. And I do a lot of canvassing for him in the Bay Area and Arizona, and that's really what resonates with people as well, as when they hear that someone is there for all of us. So I retired very recently, and I'm all in for Beto, and I guess I could say that I've retired from paying work, and now I'm just volunteering, working for Beto. So thank you.
Thank you very much. So what's your name and why do you like Beto so much?
My name is, Kathy, and I like Beto. I first was exposed to him during the Senate campaign because I'm a Texan. I live in Houston, and I actually started seeing things about him show up on my friends' Facebook pages. And so that's what made me go look. It's like, okay, so what do they like? And being someone who grew up in the 70s, I was very active in protests and demonstrations and getting a lot of the rights that we have now that we're risking losing because of what the current administration is doing. And Beto sincerely speaks from his heart about these issues, and he understands the importance. And above all the candidates, I believe that he's the one who can get the things done that we need to do to turn this country around and get it back to where it needs to be and create equality and a solid country.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Your turn. So what's your name and why do you like Beto?
My name is Crystal Olivas, and I live in the Houston area. And the reason why, and number one reason why I love Beto, so your listeners may not be able to see my shirt, but it says Beto for everyone. He is all about being inclusive. Everyone is included. Nobody is an outsider. He talks wonderful things about everyone of different races and nationalities. He likes the unification, and that's really big for me because majority of my friends are, they're from everywhere. So for me, it's really important that I have a presidential candidate that is like that, and I want a president like that. So that's my big thing. Second is the gun violence. He talks about that. So in my culture, we always say el chingon, somebody who's very bold, brave, somebody who's not afraid and to be voiced. That's just put it out there.
Say what you mean.
Yeah, say what you mean. Very bold. Just put it out there, and that's the way I am. We have no filter. So for him, the gun violence is huge. So for him to say what he's been saying about gun violence and how he wants, the mandatory buybacks of AK and ARs, that's huge for me because I have a child, and I know he is thinking of his children. And he mentions that a lot too, especially like with climate change, like, the future generation. Absolutely. Yeah. And I think of my kid all the time. And then I'm thinking of her children, right? So it's important for me to think about not just today, but the future of my child. So those are really the two major things that are important to me, and this is why I'm voting for Beto.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
So, why Beto?
Hi, my name's Deb Jeet. I'm an emergency room physician and an Army combat veteran. Been supporting Beto for about a year and a half now. I am looking for a candidate that's honest, decent, compassionate, and relentless. And those are the qualities I see in him as a candidate, and that's why I'm supporting him for president.
Thank you. So I actually really enjoy going out and getting these from people. It gives me a chance to talk to them and see all the different stories of how
It really is a lot of fun. It really is.
It's crazy to hear how people's perspectives are different, and when we have the same common goal.
Mm-hmm.
And you've done a lot of the traveling, but this time we both traveled. I went to Washington D.C. and you went to Dallas.
Dallas, yes, for the rally against fear. Yeah, Trump came into town. I think I mentioned on the podcast last week. I realized that we plugged the podcast and the rally had already completed, so it didn't. It was because it came together very quickly. But yeah, we went out there to the rally. I don't remember what the final attendance number was, but it was
like 5,537 or something like that. It was
oh wow, okay,
fuck ton of people.
or something like that. All right, it was a good sized crowd. Great speakers. That I tell you, that preacher who came on before Beto, I would follow that man into battle. He brought it. I mean, he had me in tears before Beto came out. Beto came out. He was amazing. Talked to his thing, and it was a good time. I had intended on recording a lot more from the rally. I had wanted to talk to people in line about why they felt it was important to come out. But when I got there, I was a volunteer, and Brenda Juergens saw me, slapped a clipboard in my hand, and before I knew it, I was collecting names and signatures the entire time and had no time to record anything. So, Brenda, she put me to work.
And that's what we've got to do. We're volunteers first. Like, I get pulled for ballot petitions. And you guys heard me say my dog's name, by the way. I thought I had muted myself because he was walking around behind me. So that's why you hear me randomly say the name of somebody who ruled Egypt a long time ago. It's my dog's name is Ptolemy. Brenda will put you to work, and
she will.
Volunteer work.
She will.
Definitely comes second. And there was like zero media coverage about the counter rally, by the way.
Yeah, I was very disappointed in that. I mean, Beto got 5,000 people in a week's notice in Dallas. That's
no small feat.
That's something, that's not a small thing, and yet nothing, not even a peep out of him. So, people start talking about crowd sizes, and I'm like, you know what, bullshit.
Yeah, Beto brings them all the time,
Yeah.
but nobody in the mainstream media talks about it. But he did get a second qualifying poll today, so that's
great.
That's
tell me about
good.
your event. You went up to the Washington Post event. How did that go?
Yeah, I drove up last night. I drove up and stayed in Alexandria, and then I went to the Washington Post this morning for the 2020 candidate series that Washington Post is putting on. And this is a true fish out of water story. For those of you who know anything about my background, I grew up in a hillbilly town, so I still wear jeans and flannel. Like, I'm as liberal as they come, but you can take the boy out of Bikosin, but you can't take the Bikosin out of the boy in some cases. Like, I got rid of the other shit and kept the flannel and the jeans. So I go in there and everybody around me and it is in like suits and shit, and I'm in my red flannel shirt and jeans. And so that's the way it started. It was great though. I talked to all of them. They're wonderful.
I'm sure they all wanted to talk to you.
We
got an authentic one here.
We got a real one here. Let's go talk to him. I bet he's got some stories.
Right.
So, and it didn't help. Like, I saw the live feed video afterwards, and if you watch it, you can pick me out. I'm bigger than everybody, and you can see the light shining off my big.
Got the lumberjack look going.
Yeah, I look like Brawny. Anyway, I really liked they got to do a Q&A with Robert Costa first, because Beto, in true Beto's fashion, was a little bit late, and when he came out, he apologized for being late and he joked about it later, but a lot of the answers he gave were really, really spot on. And one of the things, and I was talking to Kelly Willett, who I went with, who's been on the show, and we did the fundraiser. I actually recorded this great piece with her on our way back in the car, and it got lost. I don't know what happened to the audio, but it was really good. We were talking about Beto's use of Nazi terminology in referring to the Trump administration and all of this stuff. And, he gets questioned on that, but people aren't looking at the fact that he's 100% correct. If you look at one of the biggest motivating factors for any voter, it's your wallet, right? So
it's the economy, stupid.
It's the economy. Exactly. It's the economy. And you have to, one of the things that people are forgetting in this election are, how do you get people to forget about their wallets? And to tie this into Nazi Germany, in 1933, January 30th, 1933, Adolf Hitler takes over as chancellor. 2 weeks later, the Reichstag burns, and the rest is history. But he had the support of the German people at that point in time, including Jewish people. They may not like his policies at all, but they knew he was going to bring and make Germany great again, if you can buy that illusion.
Right.
He did. He boosted the economy. So as they started doing atrocities and committing atrocities, people were looking the other way because, well, my wallet's better than it was in years. We were the people who were forgotten. We had to pay all these reparations. The world challenged us. They tried to beat us down, and we rose up. And what the fuck does that sound like that I'm saying?
Right, exactly.
That sounds like a Trump rally if I've ever heard one. I've spent my entire adult life studying this shit, so we didn't have it happen again. And he's not wrong. So I'm tired of people fucking questioning
and
him
you know
on
what?
shit.
I think I saw that. That got blown up a little bit. I thought it was really interesting because he actually got some positive media coverage from your event. So it's kind of interesting. We have a tale of two events now. I have one where it's 5,500 people in Texas. Real people who are going to actually flip the state blue. And a Washington Post event. Which one gets more media coverage? The Washington Post event.
With maybe 75 to 100 people in the room.
Exactly. So now you begin to see what the media actually cares about. They want to be coddled. So
exactly.
And that's
it's frustrating.
It is. It's difficult breaking through that because you can't simultaneously break through to voters and coddle the media at the same time.
Exactly. Because you can't just spoon feed them shit, and that rally should have had much more attention given to it.
But I'm glad he got positive coverage out of yours. So, and those were some great answers. I saw some of the videos and clips from that, and it was some really good answers he gave.
I like the one about Tulsi Gabbard.
Yeah.
He made them be more specific, and he answered the question. He said he didn't think she was an asset. Not to completely ignore the fact, people lost their fucking minds over this, that the New York Times had to retract that story, that's not what Hillary Clinton said.
Yeah, that was a ridiculous fit that I don't think anybody actually really cared about at the end of the day. Tulsi Gabbard is wrong, but she can be wrong on her own. Exactly. She doesn't need someone else to make her wrong for her.
Yeah, exactly. And the one last thing I'm going to pull from this before we move on to climate strike is at the end, Robert Costa asked him, he said, what is the chance there's a Senator O'Rourke? And he starts listing some of the candidates. And as he's listing the candidates, he said, but I can tell you that there's an O'Rourke, and that O'Rourke is running for the Democratic presidential nomination. It was really funny. It was a good way of answering that question, and it was a new way for him to answer that question because he's answered it a million fucking times. Yeah. And I thought it was nice. It capped it off. That's what ended. And before we move again, I completely forgot about this. We were standing outside of the Washington Post, and while we're standing there, I saw one of his advance team come outside. I was like, oh, I can't remember his name. And I was like, oh, I know that guy. And then Beto and Cynthia walked out right behind him and we waved and he waved to us. And then he fucking came over and started talking to us.
Yeah, if he finds a supporter, he will talk to a supporter if he ever has the opportunity.
Dude, it wasn't even the one of the people who was with us had been friends with him when he was in high school. So they'd known each other for years. But like he just came over and just chilled with us. We didn't talk about politics. We just talked about fucking stuff. He remembered because on Sunday, I went and saw him in Fredericksburg.
You got to see him twice. I only got to see him once.
Yeah, I saw him twice this week. I took Bodie up to Fredericksburg to meet him, and like he got down on the floor with him. He asked me about we talked about his molars and shit coming in. Like we just chit chatted then as well. But he recognized me when he saw me in DC. He goes, "Oh yeah, your son just turned 1 and this, that, and the other." So he recognized me as Bodie's dad.
Not a bad distinction. So
not a bad distinction because Bodie was on his Instagram. So there's that. He also did plug a book in this segment that I had bought beforehand because the guy that we were there with was, like I said, knew him. It's a book called Just Mercy by Brian Stevenson. Deals with a lot of the racial like civil rights and all the stuff that was going down in like Alabama and stuff. So I'm gonna give that a read.
Cool. Let me
probably report back on it. So while you were at the steak fry, you went to the climate strike.
Right. That was on the Friday. I think I talked about it in the steak fried episode. So we went there, and basically what happened was is a big crowd. I think they said there were 600 people there. I can't remember if that was the correct number. And a lot of people there protesting, a lot of homemade signs out there. So basically what I did is I got some recordings of the speeches. I talked to a few people while we were waiting for the rally to kick off. There's a lot of very knowledgeable people out there. I got into a great conversation with somebody about ethanol waivers. So we're going to play that for you as well. Talked to a science teacher, got a chance to talk with the actual organizer of the steak fry for just a couple of minutes. I caught her at the end. Turned out later, I think I mentioned this in the steak fry episode, she then turned around and then endorsed Beto to run for president the next day. So that was really awesome to have an activist like that jump on with Beto. But most of the time I just spent gawking around. A lot of people brought a lot of homemade signs out there, and I would just walk up to people and talk about, why are you out here today? What does your sign mean? What's important? And, everybody, if they had a homemade sign, they wanted to talk about it and how it was personal to them, and tons of interviews, lots of people to talk to. So yeah, let's go ahead and play it and let you hear that.
We're gonna rise up to the sun. People rise up, people rise up. The powers come down, the powers come down. The people rise up, the people rise up. The powers come down, the powers come down. They try to stop us, but we keep coming back. They try to stop us, but we keep coming back. Okay, one more time. They try to stop us, but we keep coming back.
Yeah, actually, can I ask you a couple questions?
Oh, definitely.
Sure. That'd be great.
I like Beto a lot more than I do like Ted Cruz.
I think we can all say that.
In 2015, I got to spend a lot of time with Ted Cruz.
Oh, really?
Yeah. I was part of an ethanol campaign.
Okay.
And ethanol is one of the few bipartisan issues that both sides can agree to it. And hello.
No, you're good. I'm just checking.
And yeah, Beto sounds like a very strong candidate on renewable fuel.
Okay.
Ted Cruz, not so much.
No, not at all.
And the big reason is biofuels reduce the price of gas.
Right.
That makes Ted Cruz uneasy because it's not just about money, it's about power. It's about oil dependence. And so renewable fuels gives us independence.
Right.
We don't need foreign oil, we can grow it our own. And so what I would implore to Beto is to tour some of the fascinating renewable fuel places that we have here. If you go south of here, there is a company called Darling that turns dead animals into biodiesel.
Really?
Dead livestock, instead of being thrown into a landfill, can be rendered into
So do they pick up the roadkill and bring it there too?
There are guys right now that are driving around picking up dead animals,
Oh, wow.
taking them into a rendering plant. They render it, they send it down to a biodiesel fuel station in St. Louis.
Oh, wow.
A lot better than having those carcasses just rot in a landfill.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and the methane that the decomposition produces and all that stuff, yeah.
So, local solutions. Ted Cruz does not like local solutions. He would much prefer us to be dependent on foreign oil.
Right.
So that's one big thing. But we got to spend a lot of time with Ted Cruz, and as nice of a guy he is pretty harmful to the planet.
Absolutely. Thank you. I appreciate that.
Yeah, well,
awesome.
Best of luck to Beto.
Thank you.
I got to meet him. Thought he was a really nice guy.
He is, yeah. He's very. I'm actually from Texas. I came up here
What part
for
of
this.
Texas?
Galveston, actually.
Okay.
So I came up here. I was just thinking about this on the way up because we're hitting that tropical storm right now, and I got family right now who's being flooded, worse than Harvey. So this is, it's one of those things. Like people say, like climate change. No, it's here. It's now. It's happening, and I got proof. It's affecting me.
I am curious though that you, Beto, and Ted Cruz don't have Texas accents. I don't know if I've ever heard Beto or Cruz say "yeehaw" or anything like that.
Nah, I joined the Army, so that kind of got a lot of my accent out. So I didn't have to be too big of it. It still comes out. It definitely comes out around my family.
Yeah, okay.
You should hear my sister. She's definitely got a thick accent. But
I would agree. Like when I'm back with my family, it sounds like we're from Fargo.
Right.
But no, I do think Beto is running a very good campaign. I think he has made some very good points. And with the ethanol waivers, it's really, really hurt Iowa farmers.
So I hear people talking about the ethanol waivers. I don't know a lot about that. Like, why are the ethanol waivers such a problem?
Because the mandate, the renewable fuel standard says 10% of America's fuel has to be renewable.
Okay.
And Iowa corn growers are growing corn that's intended to be blended into our fuel supply.
So they're basically growing oil, more or less.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then basically Trump and the EPA said, no, we're not going to mandate renewable fuel.
Okay.
That devalues the price of corn. And it's not just corn, it's soybeans. Down in New Mexico, they're making renewable fuel out of cacti. There's all sorts of different. In Kansas, they're making renewable fuel out of wheat. But without market access, it really doesn't have a chance to stand up against petroleum, which has over 100 years of subsidies. It is ingrained into our economy. It's really hard to compete against this monopoly.
Okay. So when you're saying the waivers, it's more of putting that the 10% renewable must be in our fuel system, enforcing that again, right? Basically creating that market for the biofuels, correct?
Yes. And the waivers were intended for small refineries, very rural refineries. Okay. But Trump, in all his wisdom, thinks that BP and Chevron are small refiners.
Yeah.
No one believes that Chevron and BP are small-time oil producers.
Right.
When you eliminate biofuels, the price of gas goes up. The amount of carbon that's released in the air goes up. And it really hurts small-time farmers. And so, yeah, Chuck Grassley said President Obama was better for biofuels than Trump. So when Grassley is switching up on Trump, so are a lot of rural Iowans. Mm-hmm. So there is a case for Beto to go out and say, hey, I want to give you market access.
All right.
I want to, give you an ability to sell your crops. And I would say the coolest thing about ethanol is the cellulosic ethanol, where when you plant corn, you harvest it, and then the corn stalk remains in the field. They've been able to go back and get that corn stalk, and turn that into fuel.
Okay.
So basically, you think about this. Tar sand oil takes about 60 gallons of water to produce 1 gallon of petroleum. Crude oil takes about 30 gallons of fresh water to produce 1 gallon of petroleum. Cellulosic ethanol only needs 1.5 gallons of fresh water.
So that really, really makes a difference, yeah.
Yes. Tar sand oil versus cellulosic. cellulosic has always been the better fuel source. But the thing is, it takes away the power from the big oil companies. So again, Ted Cruz did not like us.
Well, I don't think Ted Cruz likes a lot of people. He only looks out for himself. But
well, Iowans and Texans, we share that shame of having these oil men as our representatives.
It's unfortunate, but it is what it is. We're working. Well, we're working to get our guy out. Hopefully, I know Texas is definitely we're right on the edge. I think this cycle we really have a shot. If we get the right candidates nominated, I think we really have a shot of flipping the state. So I'm hoping, it won't be Cruz this time. It'll be Cornyn. So we'll get him out, but no, one at a time.
But that Houston oil money, that's powerful. It gives power to a lot of people.
But the funny thing about that is a lot of people down in Houston in the oil industry, they aren't really thrilled about it. The regular workers and the people who like the day-to-day folks, because one of the things about the oil industry is it's very boom or bust.
Yeah.
Your livelihood is very much dependent on the price of a barrel of oil. And if Saudi Arabia decides to do something, you're screwed here. And a lot of people don't like that. It creates a lot of instability for our economy there. We're always, the Houston economy is always up and down based on the gallon of oil or the price of a barrel of oil. So, the Houston itself has been diversifying significantly. I mean, it's grown over the last several years. So I think oil used to be like something like 80%. I think it's only like 30 or 40% of the economy. So we're getting better, but it's still big. But a lot of the workers, though, they're very much like, yeah, let's get on renewables. Let's get on this stuff. Train me for these tech jobs because we see those wind farms going up. We have Texas is the leader in new wind farms. And they see that I want to work there. That's stable jobs. I have the job. I'm not going to have to worry about being put out of job because Saudi Arabia decided something. It's good work, and a lot of people want to do that and start doing that. So I don't think that it's as like people really want oil. It's just that's what they have, down there at least.
Well, I am really glad that the Democratic candidates have made it clear we're not against the oil men. They work hard jobs. They're doing it for the money, but it's dangerous. People are dying. I mean, Texas, the BP explosion.
Yeah, we have something like that happen like once every other year or so. It happens all the time.
That hasn't happened with ethanol. Nobody's dying from ethanol, and nobody is, killing for ethanol. But we got the climate strike.
Yeah, I think they're about to start some stuff.
Hey, it was very nice to talk
all right,
to you.
thank you for talking with me. Appreciate it.
Yeah, best of luck.
Thank you very much. Hi, I'm with the Better or Work campaign. I do a podcast. Would I be all right if I just ask you about your sign real quick?
Sure.
So what does your sign say?
My sign says, once our land is gone, how will your money feed you?
That's a good statement. What does that statement mean to you?
Basically, once we don't have the land to grow our crops, to raise our cattle and other livestock, we won't be able to eat anything.
That's very true.
And those in power, those that have the money, they won't be able to use that money to get food either.
Yeah, just kind of once it hits, like the whole economy, it doesn't matter what you are, we're all going to be starving together.
Exactly. We will all finally be one in some sort of...
Hopefully not that way.
Right, let's hope
Hopefully we can deal something about it first. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi. Can I ask you about your sign real quick?
Sure.
What does your sign say?
It says, climate crisis won't wait, neither will we.
So, obviously you're out here today. Why is it important for you to be out here today?
Just because I want a future for myself and future generations to come, and I just think it's a really important issue. I've always cared about our Mother Earth and keeping her healthy.
Awesome. Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you.
Can I ask you about your sign real quick?
Yeah, sure.
So what does it say?
My sign says vegan for the future.
And why is that? What does that mean for you?
Well, eating vegan is just a more sustainable way of life. The allocation of the food is gonna be feeding more people, and so we can just keep our generations happy and healthy and have a nice clean air, water, soil from not having animal agriculture.
Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely.
How y'all doing? I work with the Beto or Work campaign doing a podcast. Can I just ask you about your sign real quick? So what does your sign say?
It says, "This is our future."
So why did y'all make this sign and bring it out here today?
For the teenagers that voices aren't ever heard, I feel like the older generations don't listen to the teenagers when it comes to big problems that it has to deal with the world. And that's why I made this sign, so the youth, the younger generations have a voice and they can make a movement.
Awesome. So if you could tell the older generations one thing, what would you tell them right now to change?
Listen to us. It doesn't matter about our age. We are still people and we know what we're talking about.
Awesome. Thank y'all. How you doing? Can I talk to you for a second? I'm with the Better or Work campaign. I do a podcast. Can I just ask you what your sign says?
Oh, that's supporting the Sunrise Movement because they are actually in the process of the struggle for all life on Earth and our future.
Right. And so why is that so important? Why do you think that's so important to come out here today?
Well, because it's our very existence that's at threat. And so we've got to change our ways, and we're going to have to accelerate it much faster than we're doing right now. And it's the young people that are in the forefront of this, and they need to be supported by all of us older people.
If you don't mind me asking, how old are you?
I am 78.
Oh, wow. And they got you out here marching on the sidewalk.
Actually, my son was one of the momentum trainers that the Sunrise Movement went through in Boston. So, and my two sons wrote the book, This is an Uprising.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So anyways, so our family has been politically involved.
Oh,
and
wow.
My one son is a union leader with immigrant labor out in Los Angeles.
Okay.
And my daughter-in-law is with the same union in Philadelphia. She's the president.
Oh, wow.
So we're really, and then her husband is the one that's the author of that book, along with his brother
wow.
Paul. So anyway, we've been.
So you're deep into it then.
Yeah, for a long time.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. And I wish it could be.
March 15th, one on May 3rd, and one today. I've organized these strikes because the current effects of climate change are staggering, and it is only predicted to get worse. The United Nations Dispatch has determined that over 250,000 people die from climate change every single year, just because of catastrophic events like floods, fires, droughts, and famine. According to the Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change, we only have 11 years left until climate change is irreversible. Because in those 11 years, when I'm a young adult just starting my life, there will be increased lack of food, water, flooding, and even more lives lost to climate change. That is why I started the climate strikes in Iowa. And now I'm begging for help from you. You are the people who can vote, organize, and spread awareness. We can all do something to act on climate change. If we don't act, we are risking people's lives. If we don't act, we are saying that we're okay with the death of our children, grandchildren, and countless others. We're saying we're okay with watching people die, lose their lives to climate change, just like we're seeing right now. I want you to vote for the people who will take action on climate change and support the kids begging for you to secure our future. And to those who can't vote yet, I want you to organize and help raise awareness on the climate crisis. I am working constantly just to have a livable future. We shouldn't have to skip school and in DC, New York, and countless other places get arrested just for the chance for humanity to survive. We shouldn't have to strike for our lives, but we do. And until we get the 100 companies who produce 71% of the world's carbon emissions to stop, we will continue striking. We won't stop striking. We won't stop striking until our government acts on climate change. We won't stop striking until our world leaders acknowledge that human lives are worth more than the stock market. We won't stop striking until the 1 million species that are predicted to go extinct are safe. We won't stop striking until we know that future generations
can see trees, polar bears, and bees, and not just hear stories about them. There is no excuse for our nation not to take action. We like to consider the United States as a world leader, but how can we be the best, or even decent, if we're okay with threatening the lives of all future generations, while having the ability to stop it? How can we consider ourselves good if money has more value than our children's lives? I'm tired of hearing all the reasons not to act upon climate change. I'm tired of adults and politicians not caring about our future. We need to declare an emergency on climate change, set curriculum on environmental issues in schools, and make educated decisions tied to IPCC reports. We can't stop climate change alone. We need everyone doing their part in order to stop the climate crisis. Voting, organizing, and making little changes in everyday life doesn't have to be difficult. My organizing in the first climate strike on March 15th started out small, and I didn't know if anyone would come. I'm excited to see now how much this movement has grown, and I'm also excited to see how much everyone has come out and how much our community has grown. So now I'm going to leave you with one quote from the Lorax. I know it may seem small and insignificant, but it's not about what it is, it's about what it can become. For the Iowa Senate. U.S.
Thank you, Lydia. Can you hear in the back? No! I am so sorry. First of all, on behalf of all the older people, I want to apologize to Lydia and the young people in this area here today at the Capitol and across the world. We have let you down. And it's time for us to do our job, to stand up, to speak up for the young people here that are here today. You see, I'm here today because each of you deserves to know that you, the young people here, that the older folks and their children and their grandchildren, America's children, the world's children, are going to grow up in the best possible world. And we should be building that world. And we're failing that right now with the policies that we have relative to climate change. And that is not acceptable. We deserve better, and we can do better. Right now, we have a senator named Joni Ernst, who has sold you out. She's a senator for special interests, for big industry, for fat cats like the Koch brothers, and they're supporting her well. She doesn't even believe in climate change yet. With the flooding that we're having, with the droughts, with the hail, with the wind, with the fires, with all the destruction going around the world, she still does not believe. And that is not acceptable. We deserve better. We can do better. We need a senator that's going to stand with you. And that is me. And today I pledge to you to be a people's senator, fighting for these young people, fighting for our older people, fighting for this environment, for this climate, for the future and promises should be available to every one of us. But we have a job to do. We need to go tackle this challenge that's in front of us. You see, I have the pleasure to travel around the world, and I see firsthand how climate change is impacting us, how the chaos is threatening in Africa and Central America and other parts of the world. And it is our job to make sure that we fix that. How do we do that? We make sure we get to net zero emissions as soon as possible. We invest trillions of dollars in research to make sure that we have renewable fuel initiatives and technology in place so that we can get to that net zero emission standard. You know what else? Iowa should be the epicenter of the solution. Our farmers, our universities, our people can lead this effort. Regenerative agriculture in our farm communities can take the lead on this. Working with our great universities on technology and initiatives to make sure we get alternative fuels, making sure we're improving our solar, our wind initiatives. We can do this. It can start right here in Iowa, and we need you to do that.
some songs together here in a second.
I want to thank all the young people that are here. It has been young people that have made all the great movements in our history. Whether that was women's suffrage, whether that was civil rights, whether that was the fight for LGBTQ community, and now the fight to fix our world for our kids and our grandkids. We need you, young people. You make sure your voices stay strong. Because I hear you, I see you, I want to be your voice in the United States Senator. Go help me to get there. God bless you.
Our next speaker for today is going to be Elle Green, and she's one of our organizers for Iowa Congress.
Hi, my name's Elle Green. I go to Roosevelt. I'm a sophomore. Hi, my name's Margot Green. I go to Merrill Middle School. Today, on September 20th, 2019, I am not in school, and neither is my sister, just like millions of other youths across the planet. Because, to quote Greta Thunberg, why should I be studying for a future that soon may be no more, when no one is doing anything to save that future? And what is the point of learning facts when the most important facts clearly mean nothing to our society? And if you still say that we are wasting valuable lesson time, then let me remind you, our political leaders have wasted decades through denial and inaction. We are striking today because we are scared, for our future is at stake. I don't think I need to call much more attention to the crisis at hand, because today the high is 80 degrees and it's practically October. Yeah! In limited news coverage of the climate crisis, we can clearly see the displacement and devastation the extreme weather has directly caused in places like Puerto Rico, the Bahamas, Florida, Louisiana, New Orleans, and various other places full of people and organisms who previously had a functioning place of livelihood. Many of our representatives are not adhering to their constituents. They're putting their own economic gain over their moral and elected obligations. I believe their alignments are supposed to lie with the policies which benefit the majority of people, not the top 1%, who are profiting off their inhumane legislation and funding their campaigns to keep it this way. The billionaires and millionaires who are against carbon taxes, greenhouse gas caps, the preservation, and they're against the preservation of trillions of lives for the benefit of their corporations must be stopped by policy. They shouldn't be able to continue this process in a government system that is supposed to foster a representative democracy. Many representatives are greatly affecting those who can't vote now, especially those yet to be born. So we need their parents and their future parents to step up, speak up, vote, educate, and put themselves out there in order to really work for their survival. And finally make our representatives work on legislation to protect the future. Elected officials, together we've come to you with an urgent agenda. Here are the policies the people are asking of you. We ask that you enact legislation that allows for the U.S. to be carbon neutral by 2050. Yeah! We ask that education and curriculum is made to address climate change and other environmental issues through K through 12. We ask that you pass the Energy Innovation and Carbon Dividend Act. Yes! We ask that you work to secure jobs in clean energy. We ask that you have all decisions tied to IPCC reports, and we ask that you pass a Green New Deal. Lastly, we ask that you declare a national emergency on climate change. Ultimately, politicians, by not acting, we are putting profit over our own children's livelihood and the planet's future. There is no acceptable moral counter-argument here. We must act now, and we must act swiftly, because our future is at stake. How y'all feeling? Repeat after me. I believe. I believe. I believe that. I believe that. I believe that we. I Beto. I'm a senior from Valley High School, and I want to ask you this. Do you remember the giant thunderstorm that happened the week before school started?
Can't hear you!
And I know we've had a lot of rain in the past
Louder!
week, but this was the first big storm, the storm that started it all. It happened at 4:30 in the morning, and I remember this because there are 2 windows in my room. One of them is right next to my bed when I'm sleeping. So once rain and thunder start, I don't sleep anymore. I have never been afraid of storms before. I prefer rain over sun some days because rain calms me and puts me in the right frame of mind to think and focus. But when I heard that furious gush of rain at 4:30 in the morning, saw the lightning erratically illuminating my room through my thin curtains, literally felt the thunder rattle my bed frame, I was absolutely terrified. It was one of the most vulnerable moments of my life. The first time I didn't feel safe from the weather outside my walls. And so at 4:30 in the morning, wide awake and sufficiently scared out of my mind, I did the only thing I could think of to cope. I pulled out my notebook. I'm a writer, primarily a poet. I turn to writing whenever I'm having existential crises, experiencing fear and wonder in proportions too vast to keep in my head. In the past, my crisis poems have been about love or success or betrayal, the standard teenage stuff. These days, however, I don't have crises about those things. I have crises about climate change. I see in my mind all the people I love dying right before my eyes, swallowed up by the earth or the ocean or fire. In comparison to all my other tortured visions, it's particularly petrifying because it is so close to becoming reality. And yet, it is so avoidable. At this point, we know that climate change is on the course to kill us all. Scientific team after scientific team has proven that we are living on borrowed time, that we only have years, months before extinction. But they've also given us the tools. We have given ourselves the tools to prevent that from happening. We have a wide variety of ways to produce renewable energy by harnessing everything from the wind to the waves to the sun. We have countless alternatives for single-use plastic or animal-based products. We have the technology to remove excess carbon from our atmosphere and our oceans. The bittersweet, laughable irony about the path we're on right now is that we can save ourselves from it, but we won't. And that's why we're here today. That's why we've abandoned our schools, our workplaces, our daily routines for a few hours. Because we know that life as we know it is not far off from coming to a grinding, terrible halt. We are not a legislature, not a cabinet, not a president or national authority of any official kind. But we know that we have the power to either influence those people or exchange them for better ones. And if these institutions refuse to take actions in our best interest, if they refuse to save us, then we will save ourselves. We can and we will demand that corporations do away with single-use products. We can and we will demand a completely renewable energy-based society as soon as possible. We can and we will demand the Green New Deal. Marches and strikes and demonstrations are difficult in many more ways than just one, but extreme measures are the only ones we can afford to take at this point. The storm is no longer on the horizon. The storm is here. The storm is right now, and the storm will only get worse in the future. This we know. I encourage you to embrace the fear, to shake along with the walls when the thunder hits. Self-preservation and altruism, banding people together to make everyone better, is the only way we will survive this crisis. And I believe in us. I'm scared, I'm terrified, but I'm not giving up yet. I will see you all when the storm clears. Hopefully, we'll be able to look at the rainbow together.
Closer.
Okay, our next speaker is going to be Eva Lackman.
Hi, I'm Eva Lackman, and I'm a senior at Roosevelt High School. I wasn't born knowing it would be this way. None of us knew it would be like this. That the world that we see today may no longer exist this way in the future. My teachers never told me that the Lorax was based on a true story. They never told me that my future will be filled with floods and storms or burnt down by fire. That in the future I will show photos to my kids of clean beaches I went to in the past although they may never go to one. That one day, my child will never see snow on Christmas or be able to go in a forest rich with tall trees and wildlife. So why is it this way? I'd say the answer seems pretty clear. There has been a gross mismanagement of fossil fuels, of natural resources, and abuse to our planet due to our usage of fossil fuels. Some of you may be wondering, what exactly are fossil fuels and what is so bad about them? Why do they put our future at stake? Fossil fuels are incredibly dense forms of energy, and it takes millions of years for them to become this way. They are located in the Earth's crust, so in order for humans to get them, we must drill down into the Earth's crust to extract them. From there, they are transported and burned to create energy that gives power to our homes, schools, and businesses. Doesn't seem that bad, right? Well, when these fossil fuels are burned, they emit great amounts of greenhouse gases into the air like carbon dioxide. From there, they have nowhere else to go. They are trapped in our atmosphere, causing global temperatures to rise, melting of the ice caps, and overall contributing to the rising of our seas. Along with that, it pollutes the air we breathe. This polluted air has been linked to a large increase in respiratory diseases, especially in the youth and in the elderly. This has caused an overall shortened life expectancy. But the pollution is not only in the air, but 25% of carbon dioxide is absorbed into our oceans, causing ocean acidification, destroying our reef and coral habitats, leading to a large imbalance in our marine ecosystems. Along with this, habitat destruction and from drilling is one of the largest threats to animals across the globe. I understand 100 years ago, we needed fossil fuels because that was all we knew. But with modern day technology, our future can flourish without a heavy reliance on such fuels. It's crazy to think that if we converted to renewable energy, all of this would slowly begin to get better. But it's not. Governments and businesses across the globe have placed short-term gain from investing in fossil fuels above the long-term benefits of renewable energy. Iowa's nearly 4,700 wind turbines created thousands of jobs for Iowans and generated 34% of the state's electricity last year. Yet, our politicians are still putting profit above the people.
Vote them out!
The Green New Deal, and so is Chuck Grassley. To some, the ideas of the Green New Deal may seem a bit extensive, but drastic times call for drastic measures. This is not a single-party issue. Climate change affects everyone.
Yes. Yeah.
And yes, we need changing of our policies, but we also need change in the people. As individuals, we must do all we can do to not leave our own footprint. And as America's youth, we need to start educating each other and ourselves on this subject since our school systems are not. We must demand change among our policymakers. We must get involved. We can no longer sit on the sidelines because this is our fight too. We must do all we can do, no matter big or small. And I may not be the perfect example of this, but neither are many of you. And we must remember, we cannot have large policy change without the willingness of the people. Climate change needs to be a bipartisanship issue because extinction does not discriminate. Climate change is the biggest issue the world has ever faced, and humans have caused it. And we need to start acting like it. We need to get out and vote. Vote in new politicians that put people above their profit. Yes. Politicians that to keep fossil fuels in the ground, that they can make sure no new non-renewable energy sources are created. Our generation right here is the last best hope for the future of humans and the last best hope for the future of this planet altogether. So I'm going to leave you with this quote from the Lorax. Unless someone like you cares a whole awful lot, nothing is going to get better. It's not.
Together, we are making a difference. We are standing here together and declaring that we will no longer accept false promises and denial. We are taking on the consequences of the generations before us, and we are saying to all politicians, leaders, and people in power that now is the time for climate action. Not in 2030, not in 2050, now. Like what it is, a crisis. We are one of the first generations to feel the extreme effects of climate change, and we are the last one who can do something about it. We are the last ones who can make sure that our children and relatives have clean water. Water that has more nutrients than microplastics. Make sure that they can breathe air. Air that they can breathe without using a gas mask. We can give them a future, one that is prosperous and hopeful. They are counting on us to restore our Earth's amazing glory, to stop the man-made fires in our forests. Man-made fires that can't be put out by those same men who started them. To stop the pollutions of our oceans. Oceans that have 14 billion pounds of trash in them. Now, we can't get out of this mess with the same bad ideas that got it in the first place. Our perspective needs to change. We need leaders who will fight for our Earth. Politicians will say that our schools are worth fighting for. Livable futures and jobs are worth fighting for. Our votes are worth fighting for. But when will they say that our Earth is worth fighting for? Increased intensity in storms will surely impact our attendance much more than this strike. Spending money on relief for climate change will affect our economy much more than our jobs in giant buildings that are producing more greenhouse gases than contributions to this country. No longer is there time to wait for politicians to decide that they want to make a change. We start now and we start boldly. We are the first generation to pay attention to this crisis, to see the problems and seek solutions. We are the most affected by this crisis, and we aren't even allowed to vote.
Yep.
So what do we do?
Realities like this didn't feel real to me until I moved to the urban city of Pittsburgh, where there is a steel mills located still, even though they've shut down most of them. And the last ones are in communities that are over 60% black, and over 30% of the people live under the poverty line. And the residents there are not the owners of the plants. They're not the managers of the lands, because all of them live far away from the pollution they're emitting into our communities. They didn't want to live in a neighborhood where 90% of the residents were at risk of exposure to the fine particulate matter. They didn't want to live in a place where the air had 6,700 air permit violations from 2015 to 2015. They didn't want to live with the reality that nationally, black kids are twice as likely than white kids to develop asthma and 10 times more likely to die from asthma complications after they get it. And these are the boring realities of climate change. These are the everyday monotony of how these affect our communities. Because just in, say, 2017, storms, floods, and droughts displaced 18 million people from their homes worldwide. My family, my husband's family, lived in Puerto Rico at the time. His grandmother lived in Puerto Rico, and after the hurricane hit, there was no electricity for months. They had trouble finding clean water. And my in-laws could afford to fly their mother up to Pennsylvania to live with them until it was fixed. But not every family has that kind of capital and the benefit of a U.S. passport to get to somewhere safe. But the World Bank estimates that 200 million people will need to leave their homes by 2050 in order to escape the natural disasters that we're causing now with climate change. We will have hurricanes, fires, gradual sea rise, unpredictable weather patterns, making it impossible to grow crops or raise livestock. And you currently can't cite climate as the reason you're seeking asylum or refugee status. But that doesn't stop people from getting displaced. I'm here because I want action on climate, but I want environmental justice to be that action. We have 11 years left.
That's some really good stuff, Ryan. You've done some really good work out in the field. You've gotten some really good shit, man. I still, like, my favorite interview you've done is the one with Brenda in the diner where you can hear the clinking and all that one. That's the most professional sounding shit we've done. It was really good. So shout out to Brenda. Brenda is awesome. She's the MVP. Also, we've learned if we bring up Brenda, we get
maybe
more
she'll
views.
retweet us for this stuff.
Right? Brenda's the queen, man. She's awesome. So, but not to discount any of our other guests, we're going to go ahead and bring John back on to talk about the climate strike.
So we would like to bring on our climate expert, John. John, how you doing today, man?
I'm good. I wouldn't really call myself a climate expert, but I'm not going to complain.
You're expert enough for this podcast, so you're our expert. So welcome aboard.
Thank you.
So as our listeners just heard right before, I went to the Iowa climate strike, and we talked to a lot of people out there, and a lot of couple big themes kept coming out, and I wanted to bring you on and kind of start talking about some of those themes and, kind of get your perspective. So the first big thing, and the thing that everybody repeated, was we only have 11 years. And that's something that's, when you think about it, is kind of stark and a little bit scary. I mean, that's a pretty hard deadline. What kind of deadline? I mean, what are we talking about? What is this deadline that they're saying when they say we only have 11 years?
Yeah, so the IPCC, the Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change, put out a report last year saying if radical action is taken within 12 years to get the ball rolling on decarbonization, then we might have a chance of averting the worst of the consequences of climate change. It's not really like if we miss it by one day, everyone dies. It's more like if we miss it by a couple years, a lot more people are going to die. If we hold it to within 12 years where we seriously take out like half the carbon emissions that we're putting in each year, then it gives us a good fighting chance to go forward.
Right. So, yeah. I mean, yeah, because it's kind of important to remember that none of this is hard and fast. It's all degrees. Like it's it's a sliding scale. Yeah, it's a sliding scale of, it could be bad. We're not going to make things perfect, but we need to start making things better.
Yeah. And right now, 12 years is basically them saying, all right, we can keep it to bad or we can let it get a lot worse. Let's try to keep it to bad.
Right, right. And I mean, the difference between bad and a lot worse is, I mean, like, what are we talking about difference here? Temperature, just basic temperature wise, what are we talking about here?
Well, we'd see excess sea level rise. The temperature would compound a lot more storms everywhere from Bangladesh to Central Africa to, well, I guess everywhere. We'll get hit with weirder weather patterns, which might mean in some areas more snow. It might mean no snow in other areas. We're going to see a lot more extreme weather, a lot more disasters, and a lot more famines. Beto's climate policy really talks about how, there are going to be lots of climate refugees. His immigration policy says, Central Americans are fleeing right now because of drought. If climate change gets worse and worse, that's just going to get, it's going to turn into a full-blown humanitarian crisis.
Right. We're gonna start seeing legitimate war over resources again.
Yeah.
Something that we haven't really seen in the modern history for a long time, actually.
Yeah, fighting over water. That's not going to be great.
But it's a real possibility.
Yeah.
But 11 years, so that's pretty daunting. I mean, when you think about it, like, hey, we got to start doing stuff. Like, that was the other big thing that I got from a lot of people was we need to do something, but we're not doing anything. But what can we do?
Right.
And there's kind of this back and forth of, we're demanding our politicians to act, but they aren't acting. But there's also things we can be doing, but we're not really seeing those sociological change. Like, what kinds of things should we be doing here?
Well, I mean, when it comes down to it, when people say turn off the lights when you leave the room, don't waste energy, that stuff does apply, but a lot of the emissions coming into the atmosphere, that comes from like major corporations and major transportation hubs. So, it would be great if people ate less beef and turned off lights when they left, but really it does come down to pushing over and over again for concerted political action. Because even if we really cut our energy usage, that's still not.
I mean, this isn't something we're going to start using metal straws and save the turtles. No, we have to reduce plastic consumption across the board.
Yeah, and I mean, I'm sure metal straws would be nice, but it's like a drop in the bucket. Compared to ExxonMobil taking out enormous amounts of oil and gas and burning it.
Right. And unfortunately, I'm glad you mentioned Exxon, because that's kind of been one of their defense strategies that they've been employing to fight climate change is, well, it's all on you. You need to change your light bulbs and conserve less. Or like the plastic industry says, well, it's not our fault that this is ending up in the environment. The plastics are ending up in the environment. It's you not throwing them away. Right. Those kinds of ideas that it's somehow our individual personal responsibility, but not a shared responsibility.
Right.
It seems to be the dominant theme that we're fighting against.
Exactly. And there's no real incentive for any individual person to make their life a little bit more inconvenient by, biking to work or not taking planes. So without real centralized action, we're never going to get the kind of personal action we need. So... Yep, whippy.
Right. So, I was hoping Chris would be back on, but I guess we kind of lost him. So, other than
So I kind of fucked up the audio there. That's on me.
Yes,
again,
it is.
grassroots production here. I had my wife come in, so Hannah came through and she had a sweet tea for me. And then I heard them talking about me because I was like basically producing this episode, like letting these guys talk it out. And doom and gloom, apparently.
Yeah.
I got distracted.
Yeah, it turns out we're all doomed.
Yeah, we're all doomed. There's going to be climate wars unless we make major corporation actions in the next 11 years. But you know what? We got plans for that, though. I mean, we've talked...
You've got a plan for that?
Well, Beto does. He's got, he's talked about his cap and trade system. Will help limit the carbon pollutions. He's talked about how, actions he can take on day one with, being able to stop leases on government properties, stop new permits for new drilling oil, keep that carbon in the ground where it belongs and not in the atmosphere. There's things that can be done. And I think we kind of said this earlier was, climate change isn't you fix climate change. It's you're either making things better or you're making things worse, and we need to start making things better.
Mhm.
And that's
We need to
really
manage
what
the
it comes
Instead
down
of making
to.
things worse.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, it sounds like Beto does have a plan for that.
Yeah.
It's nice to have a politician who has a plan when they say they do. No shade there at all. All right. Well, I'm sorry. I once I said he's got a plan for that, I was like, oh no, I have to.
Yeah. You've waded in deep in this fight now.
It's okay.
I was too far in. I'm sorry, Elizabeth Warren. I'm and any of her supporters that are listening, which I doubt it. They see a fucking podcast that has Beto's name in it, and they're like, oh, maybe not today. You know what? We welcome you here in the trust tree.
This is a big tent.
We'll take everybody.
We take anybody and all of us.
I said I've liked Warren at times, but Beto's my guy.
It all depends. I did get yelled at by one of her supporters when I was doing ballot petitions the other day.
Yikes.
Yeah, she was just like, she just started yelling "Go Warren" at me. I was like, we're on the same team, man. Like, you can sign this and help all of us out. If you brought me an Elizabeth Warren one, I would sign it for you. Go Elizabeth Warren. Thank you for just not listening to me at all. It's like being at school.
Wow,
such is life.
That's a little childish, actually.
Yeah, no, I was. I mean, it was at a William and Mary's homecoming. There was probably alcohol involved. It's all good.
That's okay.
Yeah. We all do dumb shit. We all do dumb shit. I've been on fire. I have done dumb shit when
I was about to say like Williamsburg has seen worse. I was gonna say like it's been on fire before, but I guess you've won up to that.
I myself have been on fire. That is a true story. Is a true story.
That explains the hair loss.
Yeah. Right? Yeah. I was my leg. Thank you. I set my leg on fire. And if, you know what, we can make a thing out of it. If we can get this over 100 views just on YouTube alone, I would even say 150 altogether. I will tell you the story of Jim Beam in the bonfire.
I thought you were just going to let your other leg on fire.
No, God, no. Jesus, fuck. Yeah, no. The first time was bad enough.
Oh, yeah. Liquor fires.
Yeah, no. It's so much worse than you think, but can't. I'm not going to let that out now. So we're going to go ahead and thank John. John, thank you for coming back.
Thank you,
always, you are so well versed on this stuff, and I don't understand it at all. So I just know it's bad, and we got to fucking fix that shit. So thank you for coming on and setting us straight.
Yep, anytime.
So the good thing about John, like the really nice thing about having him be a voice on here, is he's really knowledgeable. So I really enjoy bringing him on. He's a lot of fun. He's a pretty bright guy.
Yeah, it absolutely. It was good to have. I think you got to talk to him last time, so this is my first time talking to him, and it was great. It was good to have a chat with somebody about this stuff.
Yeah, and again, to harken back, my bad on fucking it up a little bit. There's a lot of stuff
Amateur
going
hour.
on.
It's okay. It's okay. I think we have a couple of mess ups on this episode, so
it's what makes us special.
It's the thing. Yep.
Yeah. Why not? I mean, it makes us. To me, it makes us human. It makes us close to our listeners.
Hopefully it doesn't piss off our listeners.
No, like to better supporters have a really good sense of humor, man. We're some of the best people.
That is
we were
true.
talking about today.
That is true.
We all like there. You can't. We're good. Yes. But you mess with one of us, and it brings down the whole raft of the Beto universe.
We definitely circle the wagons real quick. But when you're in, you're in.
Yeah, you're in. You've got the full backing of every Betomaniac that is here. It's just madness.
Yeah.
So we're gonna go ahead and bring Dan on for our weekly impeachment update, and this one, it's a good one. There's a lot of shit that's happened, so we're gonna go ahead and bring Dan on. We're going to go ahead and bring Dan back on for our segment on impeachment. What's going on, Dan?
Not much. I'm doing pretty well. How are you doing, Chris?
I'm doing a hell of a lot better than anybody that has had their name dropped in Bill Taylor's testimony. A hell of a lot better than those guys.
True story,
Holy
bro.
shit. It's been a hell of a week if you were a Republican. So let's go ahead and get an update. What are we up to? What have we missed since last week's episode?
Well, basically we had Solin Gordon Sondland, I believe, testified, and yesterday was Bill Taylor. Laura Cooper was today. I think Volker testified before.
Yes, he has testified.
Yeah. And I can't. I know Cooper did it today. I didn't really follow her, but I know they had the issue this morning. We'll get into that a little bit later. But basically, Bill Taylor, in a nutshell, implicated Trump in the quid pro quo. Basically stated that the aid was dependent on the investigation into Vice President Biden, and his child Hunter. But the funny thing about it is, Ambassador Sondland, the EU ambassador, his testimony prior basically kind of skirted the issue. He didn't think that Trump. He didn't admit that Trump was the one who wanted this. That was a contingency. But Bill Taylor basically yesterday said, yes, Sondland told me about this. It was going to happen. The aid was tied to the investigations. So Mr. Sondland might be a little heaping of trouble with Congress. But as far as we know, the quid pro quo is real. I mean, we've known that for a while. Trump released the tapes. Mick Mulvaney admitted it.
But we need to get over it.
Mm-hmm. You need to get over it, and then we don't need to get over it. But basically, I'm not even sure what's going to happen after this. I don't know. Maybe how many people are left to interview. What else they're going to, what else they're trying to find? Is there more to find besides what we know?
I mean, they've already admitted to it. Like, what the fuck else do they really need here? And Gordon, you're back to Gordon Sondland. Mm-hmm. You are 100% right. That dude, he is in some trouble. Even Republicans want him back.
Yeah, well, I mean, which Republicans?
I've heard some. I mean,
no, I'm making a joke about the little stunt today.
Oh yeah, those fucking schmucks.
Put a pin in that one.
Yeah, we'll put a pin in that for now, because everybody's lovable used to be not crazy mayor, Rudolph Giuliani. He has been a little MIA lately. We haven't heard a lot from Rudy. That's probably in his best interest ever since they arrested three of his friends now, right?
Yeah, I forget the other one's name, but the main two are Lev and Igor, whatever you want to call him.
Whichever Russian name you want him to, or Ukrainian name, because they were Ukrainian, not Russian. And I would hate to make the Russians look bad.
No, let's not do that. Not piss off grand leader.
The grand leader Putin. So what's up with Rudy? What this guy? What's he doing? And how much trouble is this dude in? For real?
I think he's in a shitload of trouble. I think you're going to see some jail time for this guy. What is he doing hobnobbing with criminals? And even you've seen pictures of Lev and Igor with Trump. It's very funny, and it's happened with, I believe it was, I don't want to say it was Cohen. Somebody Cohen knew when somebody came out, the guy was bad, and you see a picture with, I don't know this guy, but you see a picture with Trump from years ago.
Yep.
He's very good at he's very good at trying to sidestep something that's obviously in front of us. But I think really Rudy's up a creek without a paddle. It seems to me he's been extorting Ukraine. He's been gallivanting with oligarchs, shady oligarchs. I think he's trying to fraud America.
For fucking sure.
Yeah, and
him and Trump are doing a pretty damn good job of that.
Yeah, and there's
shadow diplomacy and shit.
Yeah, it's just to me that screams illegal. It screams unconstitutional, and it seems to be a conspiracy. I don't know, and it could be he's been. I don't think he's testified yet, or anybody's testified in the Rudy situation. I don't think they will. I think they're going to hide. I think he's going to hide like a little bitch that he is, and avoid everything at all possible. But I think he's in a lot of trouble.
He's definitely screwed.
He is beyond screwed. I don't even know. I know we discussed this. I don't think we did it last week, but maybe in private. This guy 19 years ago everybody liked him. Republicans, Democrats, you name it. He did a great job after 9/11.
He could do no wrong.
Yeah, and he was on SNL. He was, they were fawning over him. He was going over. He probably made a shitload of money. But what's his strategy here? Why does he need to suddenly get in bed with President Trump and do his dirty work for him and get in bed with these oligarchs?
Well,
he's not a poor man. He's not struggling.
Well, no, but greed is a pretty big deal.
That's true. Greed is good, apparently.
Apparently, and we talk about how great he was in during 9/11, but what if that was the blip on the radar? That was the maximum amount of good he has ever done or will do. Because wasn't he married to his second cousin? He left. He had an affair with her or some shit.
He had a lot of issues with his marriages. I don't know exactly which, but he's definitely he should have followed Jerry Seinfeld's advice, leave him wanting more. He should have got out of the public eye and never got back again, only to speak in public about what he did as mayor.
Exactly. If he would have done that, he'd have been fine. And to go back, people give him shit and whatnot about cheating on his wife and all that good stuff, which is terrible. It makes him terrible, but it doesn't
Well, it doesn't that shouldn't impact that shouldn't official.
Exactly. That shouldn't
And same for Trump. What do you do with your free time, whether how heinous it might be? But when you pay off porn stars, that's another thing. There's so much illegal crap that Trump's done that could just be piled on. That could go on for weeks and months and years for this guy.
So then that brings us to the next point. Why are Republicans just fighting each other to fall on their swords with this motherfucker? Why?
I really don't get it, because as far as I know, that the next person to become president is Mike Pence, not a Democrat, not the old days where the second not Hillary Clinton is now waiting in the wings. She's not. So what the fuck is this guy hasn't really brought the honor to the Republican Party in the last 3 years.
Unless they can make it a dictatorship and they get some kind of stake in that power, but good fucking luck with that.
Yeah, the only thing I can think of is they're nervous that Pence has some issues too, and he's culpable. And if he's forced out, then Pelosi's next in line. But what does that say about our government, about our country, our leaders? If we don't want to hold our president accountable for doing horrible things, illegal things like that. What would the case be if this was a Democratic president? Republicans would promise you would not be storming the Capitol and storming a SCIF meeting to protest.
Yeah, and what the fuck are they doing?
They are being assholes. They are being just little babies. They are being little Trump foot soldiers, and it's pathetic. I believe there's somebody waiting to talk about this. Knows more than I do. I'm waiting to see. Where's he on mute? Nope, still no. Okay, we'll give him a second. It's funny because I believe during Benghazi, the Republicans held secret meetings. They held these meetings in private because this is an investigation. This is an inquiry. The Justice Department refused to investigate what's going on. Tells you a lot about Bill Barr, but they're trying to get the facts. It's almost as if Trump is being investigated by the police. They're seeing, the evidence is being accumulated, people being questioned, and then they're going to bring charges. You don't see people who are investigated yelling at the police, crying, "Oh, it's not fair." No, it's perfectly fair. There's no trial. There's no judgment. You're gathering evidence. And this asshole is obstructing justice by having his henchmen go into this meeting, by tweeting things like, "Oh, this is like a lynching," which is incredibly fucked up.
Incredibly awful.
Listen, I'm from the north, so I can't really speak to the history of that. I know you're obviously younger than we were born in the 50s, but it's something that's happened in people's lifetime who are on this earth. People might have relatives who were killed by lynching.
Oh, absolutely.
And to invoke that in an investigation where you've admitted and you have evidence presented that shows that you're guilty, that is the lynching? No, that's disrespectful to people who suffered and to African Americans today who struggle with persecution and systematic racism. It's just and Lindsey Graham to open his fat mouth and defend him.
Even Mitch McConnell stood up against it.
Yeah, Mitch
McConnell's he's losing Mitch McConnell. And to your point about lynchings, one of my friends had pointed me into the direction of a movie they did on HBO about somebody who was lynched at the Hampton Coliseum in the 90s because he celebrated the O.J. Simpson case. So there are people still alive that have family members that were lynched. I can tell you that is fact.
Yeah, okay. Well, at least today they have, they're going to be arrested and tried for murder.
But those guys got off. They said it was it was a suicide.
Oh shit. Okay.
But even little kids were like, how did he get himself up there to hang himself like that? It's just I can't remember the name of the movie. But it was some awful shit, man. It still happens, and to invoke that is to be absolute.
It should have been a public condemnation of any elected Republican. Of course, I'm sure Democrats came out. I haven't really checked everybody's Twitter or Instagram, but it should have been a public condemnation. It should have been the easy one.
Easy, immediate.
I mean, at least
Antoine Sedgwick, the Antoine Sedgwick story
Okay.
was it was on HBO. So give that a watch. So we have Ryan waiting. Actually, I think he's muted. I hope he's not still talking.
He wanted to come in for the skiff argument, but
I would love because he had he was military. He was intel.
Yeah, and I don't know if maybe he'll come on when his time and he'll touch on this, but it's a classified situation, and they're bringing phones in there and parading, and that should be an impeachable offense right there, or they should lose whatever status they have as congresspeople.
Hold on, are we talking about this publicity stunt that the Republicans decided to pull today?
We sure were. We had to wait for you. We chewed you up, but I guess you're a little tied up. Go, Ryan.
Oh, I was
some knowledge.
planning our next segment actually.
Okay.
Yeah, this is kind of ridiculous because I worked in a skiff for a while, and I don't
get a little closer to your mic.
Yeah.
Oh, and we can't hear. Yeah, I worked in one for a while, and this what they're pulling is ridiculous. This isn't just a publicity stunt. This actually, causes real harm. These are difficult. Now someone's gonna have to go back in there. They have to sweep the room. It's gonna be this whole procedure in order to resecure that facility. These are problematic things. You can't just barge into a secured facility like that. I mean, besides the fact that this, investigations, these are closed doors. There's Republicans in these meetings with them. It's not like the Republicans.
There was a Republican that was in there that was in the group that I guess invaded.
Who could have been in there without doing that shit.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. It's just a publicity stunt, and they're dancing all over national security in order to get a win, but it's not even a win because they're doing what they're supposed to do. Like this is an investigation.
That's exactly what you just said. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So
but aren't there Republicans on these committees in these meetings? I mean,
there are
crazy here.
Everyone they are represented, so there's no reason for them. Like it basically is what it is. It was a publicity stunt, so they could say, "Oh, they're doing this behind closed doors, and there's no visibility." And it's like bullshit. You know everything that's going on. You have the reports. You get all the information. You're just trying to go on Fox News and cause a stir. And quite frankly, I don't buy it. It's a bullshit stunt. I think people will generally see it for the stunt it is.
Let's hope so.
I wouldn't spend too much time for it, but it does tell me that they're willing to, I think I mentioned this earlier. I wouldn't be surprised to see him get physical over this at some point. Bring fist fights out. I mean,
it's happened before, and anything they can do to take the
I mean,
go ahead.
Isn't that Trump's whole MO, though? I mean, that's kind of what Trumpism is about. It's not elevating everybody to, up to be better. It's showing, everybody's corrupt, everybody's slimy. Anything he can do to just muck up the process and make everybody seem bad. He doesn't mind looking bad as long as everybody else looks bad with him. Because, quite frankly, Trump wins that fight. So
I'm bad, but you're worse than me. Like he's doing something worse than I am.
Exactly.
It's like he's a freaking teenager. I had a kid do that today to me, like, "Oh, well, he's doing that." I'm like, "I don't care. You're getting in trouble. I'll deal with him in a second." Like, I'm like, "Get out of here with that crap."
Yeah. So I mean,
I see it in my sixth graders every day.
Yeah,
exactly.
And I have eighth graders, so clearly it's not any better.
Yeah, no, not much better. But yeah, no, that's a real problem, especially when they go in there with cell phones and shit. Like, what the hell are you doing? And really, honestly, we need to see the Democrats are in charge. They can go around and show their asses all they want, but Nancy Pelosi can march the sergeant at arms in there, throw Matt Gaetz.
It's kind of funny
and she should.
that we are legitimately talking about having to utilize the sergeant of arms for like real purposes. This is supposed to be like an honorary title. You give a gold watch to the guy who like coordinates with the Capitol Police once in a while. Not like you're gonna have to start separating members.
That's funny. Yeah. This poor guy is like, I got the cushy job of all time. Fuck. Assholes.
I worked my whole life and these motherfuckers are gonna ruin it for me.
I'm a day from retiring. I gotta do some work. Damn it.
Right.
All right, Dan, we have another segment coming up, so we definitely appreciate you coming on and helping us out and continuing to talk about impeachment. What do you want to plug?
I want to plug something. Nothing. Just hopefully next debate is next November 20th.
November 20th. Beto got his second qualifying pole. We need two more.
Let's go. Let's go, people.
Let's go. Let's
keep this pod going.
We've got to keep not having money to feed our family because of this podcast. We're all teachers here. That's how we
true
feed
story.
our kids.
Well, one thing I know. Hopefully, and I joke about this. I'll keep coming back because you never know what's going to happen. Republicans are turning against Trump. John Thune, the minority whip. The Senate is worried about the picture that Trump's painting. And just like, when Nixon was technically impeached, articles were written up, but this could move quickly if the Republicans start to get a little squeamish.
It's all it takes is just a little bit of squeamish.
I don't think they're going to do that. It's not been in their MO, but you never know.
Yep, we very well might see the third impeachment in the history of the United States, and it's looking more sure every single day. All right, Dan, thanks.
No problem, guys. See you guys
Take
next
it
week,
easy.
I hope.
Yep, definitely.
Adios. Bye, Chris.
So we're going to keep doing these impeachment segments as long as we can.
Hopefully we'll continue hopefully we will not continue with the theme of messed up audio. Me coming in late on that segment.
Yeah, it's all good. Yeah, we've had a time this episode. It's been fun.
It's been a whirlwind. I mean, we got some things coming up here in the near future. Yeah, one of the big things, I got a chance to talk to Thomas, one of our Beto Road Warriors, and I got a big trip planned to come up, and the Liberty and Justice Dinner coming up. So why don't we go ahead and bring Thomas on and talk about the Road Warriors. So I am here with one of the inaugural members of the Road Warriors, Thomas. Thomas, how are you doing today?
I'm doing great.
So you're one of the original Road Warriors. Why don't I've talked a little bit about the Road Warriors on the podcast before. Why don't you tell me what are the Road Warriors? How did we come about, and what are we, and what are we about?
Well, we're a ragtag group of people who came together on Twitter.
Ragtag, for sure.
Ragtag, big Beto fans, and we all ended up at the steak fry in Iowa, and we had such a great time being there and supporting Beto that when we left, we decided to form a group. And I think there were 20 or 25 of us then, and now there's close to 50 of us, and we're growing, and we're excited. So what we do is our mission is to just go out to Beto events and provide support for Beto, to get him fired up. He loves to see his people, and we love to be there. So it's a lot of fun.
Yeah, it really does seem like when he sees people he knows and supporters who are really support, the energy level, he brings the energy extra too.
He brings the energy, and he feeds off of your energy. So when we're there and we're visible, he gets excited. So we just came from the debate in Ohio, and we wanted to be there right when he came in. So we set ourselves up right by the entrance. So when Beto drove by, he could see us, and he rolled down his window and told us how excited he was that we were there, and that's all we needed. That's what we needed. But while we were there, we were also doing other things for the campaign. We were collecting petitions to get Beto on the primary ballot in Ohio. There's a lot of states that have to do that. Virginia is still a big challenge. We've still collecting signatures there, in Alabama. So right now we have people working on that stuff all over the country. Aside from, the things like the debate and the rally tonight.
Right. It's not like we're just showing up to cheer. We're showing up to work. It really is a working group that moves and travels and works.
Yeah, and it's amazing how quickly it's become such a well-organized, well-oiled working group.
Very impressive, too. I mean, we put together a website within 2 weeks. We already got mailing lists and call lists and everything. Yeah,
it's exciting. It's exciting. So, yeah, we've already got such a great organization. So many energetic people, and we're nationwide, so we can deploy anywhere we need to be. It's fantastic. I love it.
Yeah, and also, if other people want to join, we're obviously open. We're taking sign-ups. We'll help with travel,
all are welcome.
Yes.
All are welcome.
Yeah, we'll definitely help, split costs on Airbnbs and
that's what we do.
Transport to the airport and pick you up, and we'll take care of you. You're one of us. We'll take care of our own.
We take care of our own. That's one of our mottos. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. So
Great. So, and you just actually drove in. What time did you get in last night? Actually,
I drove in from Ohio. I got here at 1 a.m.
So you were out at Ohio at the debate.
Yeah.
So tell me, because you mentioned you were there for visibility.
Mm-hmm.
You also did some petition.
We did some petitioning, and Storm Boyd organized a wonderful watch party, and for during the debate, and then after the debate. We all went to Steak and Shake, and Beto and Amy joined us there, and that was very exciting. We always love to see Beto, and so at 1 in the morning, 1:30 I think it was, they showed up at the Steak and Shake.
What do the other customers around there think about this?
Everybody in the place was excited. There was a huge group of high school students there, who one of them had come over and said, "Oh, I love your shirts," and we said, "Stay around, Beto's going to swing by and visit," and they were so excited. So they all stayed, and they all got their pictures with Beto, and
that's awesome.
It was a fantastic night. It was a lot of fun.
That's awesome. Yeah, he definitely, that is one thing, because we did the same thing at the steak fry. We did the birthday party, and he shows up.
And
he
shows up. And that's what you can say about Beto. He shows up.
Absolutely.
He shows up for his people.
So I mentioned we have a website out there. What's the website?
It's BetoRoadWarriors.com.
And we're selling T-shirts now, right? Or are we soon to be?
Not yet. I mean, we're just getting the T-shirts.
We're getting them together,
hoping to have them for the Iowa event. And once we get them and we all have them, then yeah, we'll try to figure that out. We're trying to figure out a way to do that with and have it's either going to be at cost or if we have if we're making any money off of it, that it's going to the campaign. We don't,
we're not trying to.
We don't want to make money off of it.
Money on this, just for visibility's sake.
Mm-hmm.
So, what are the next big events that we have planned coming up that we could use some help for?
Well, we've got the big event in Iowa, the Liberty and Justice Convention in Des Moines. That's on November 1st. We'll be there for several days before and after, canvassing and doing whatever we can for the campaign. We've got a lot of people going to that one.
That's a big one. They want as many people out there as
we
they can
want.
get.
Yeah, we're going to have a huge presence there, and more are always welcome. We have the Long Beach Convention coming up in mid-November. We have ballot petition things going on in Alabama and Virginia right now that we really need help with, especially Virginia.
Yeah, especially the rural parts of Virginia. I'm hearing that and we got a group
It's very
organizing
hard
to go, but obviously as much help as we can get.
Well, the way Virginia does it is you have to have a certain number of ballot signatures from each district, and 300 from each district. And some of these districts, only have 1,000 Democrats in them, so it's very hard to track them down and you're knocking on 15 doors to get one signature. It's a lot of work, but it's just a few districts that are complicated like that, and so we're trying to get a big push together to take care of that in November before the deadline. The deadline is the 2nd of December, so it's coming up.
So yeah, and that's one. So we got the Ohio. We just got finished with the debate. We got the Liberty and Justice, and really just wherever else in the future they need stuff, we'll be there. That's the whole idea.
It's evolving, and it seems like every week there's another event, and I'm not even sure how many events there are. What new events are happening right now, because I've been on the road for the last week and a half, and I haven't had a chance to really Twitter. So
For those who don't know, Thomas is probably he drives everywhere. He has a big van, so he is the road warrior. He definitely stays on the road a lot.
I live on the road, and I like it. I've always been that way since I was a kid. So it suits me to be traveling around, and also I like to I like to have my van with me when we're there, because it gives us all a way to move around easily. So.
Yeah, exactly. So, hey, thanks very much for talking with me. Appreciate talking with me. Thank you. That's all I need.
Good.
So how did you guys come up with the idea of the Road Warriors? Because I know you were a big moving part with that.
Yeah, that's what I said. We talked about it on the segment, but yeah, it was just kind of after the steak fry, we started realizing that we need to do more of this and we need to continue to do this. So let's do it. And, that's kind of what the whole point of a grassroots campaign is. That, Beto said this to us personally several times because, when we do these things, he shows up for supporters. You show up there, he'll show up and say hi and, talk to you if you come from out of town. So, he's told us all the time, ask for forgiveness, not permission, just do stuff. And so we did it. We made this group and we're running with it. Just kind of like we made this podcast and we're running with it.
Exactly. I was about to say, I didn't know if I could do it. I didn't know if I could use his name. I was just going to do it until they told me I couldn't anymore. Mm-hmm. And here we are at episode 18 with him knowing about it. And by the way, we need business cards. I noticed that while I was out. Like, we need business cards to hand people.
I told you.
I fucking messaged the envoys.
First day I went out, I was like, we need business cards.
Yeah, let's get that going.
Oh, but we got the T-shirts. I got my T-shirt in. So yeah, we have a web store. You can now purchase your Looking Ahead to Better Days T-shirt. I need to put this up on Twitter soon. I got my got it in, but yeah, it's.
Yeah, please put that on Twitter so I can retweet it.
Yeah, I got the logo, the Looking Ahead to Better Days, a podcast for the Relentless. It's a nice shirt. I haven't tried it on yet. I'm saving it. I'm saving it because the one that you made for me in the living room, it's already peeling off. I washed that thing one time, and it's already starting to fall
I put a
off.
lot of work into that.
Well,
Thank you.
I think it will be the nostalgia one that stays in the closet forever.
The one when you need to paint a room. Oh yeah, fuck it, I'll wear this one.
Yeah, exactly.
So bringing it back to the Road Warriors, I need some help in Virginia on Saturday. On Saturday, I am going to be hosting a giant clipboarding event. So ODU, which is Old Dominion University, HU, which is Hampton University, and CNU, which is Christopher Newport University, are all having their homecoming games. All three of those colleges, universities, whatever, are in the 2nd and 3rd congressional district of Virginia, where we really, really, really fucking need some help with these petitions. If you know anybody, I need you here. Saturday, October 26th, we're going to meet in the morning. We're going to break out from there, and we're going to hit these games as hard as we can. I want 75 signatures a person. If we can get 75 signatures a person, we can finish 2 and 3 this Saturday. That way, with that done, we can move on to the other districts, and I can go out west and help in 6 and 9. Mm-hmm. So we've really got to push for this, guys. We cannot have Beto not on this ballot. This is your
golden window of opportunity to knock this one out.
This is our golden opportunity to make a fucking difference in this campaign. Polls are one thing. Getting on a debate stage is another. But being on the fucking ballot is a big deal. And we need to be on this ballot. I want to cast my vote March 3rd. I'm going to bust my ass to do so. And we've got some supporters that are going to show up and show out to be able to do it. So come on, guys. We all need to be in on this. We all need to get out. We all need to volunteer. We all need to donate. And, I think that's a wrap for this episode, Ryan.
Yeah.
We've hit a lot of stuff. And so I guess, guys, the only thing to do is to keep on looking ahead
to better days.